Thank you, Sean. All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you. Thank you for making it down today for the presentation. I know as the days continue throughout this week, it's harder and harder to get up. So especially, as you heard, there is a shuffleboard court in the vicinity that is open until 3 a.m. every night. So that's what we've been doing the past couple of nights. So my presentation today is on millennials. It's a big topic right now, not only within our industry, but in most industries that are looking for new talent. I've given this presentation probably 3 or 4 times now within the past year across the country. And what was most exciting was what I've heard this week of people that are coming to see the presentation. Probably the best thing I heard was, did you see those millennials on the dance floor at the Be Access party doing the floss? We have to go to this presentation because we have to learn how to do the floss. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to teach you how to do the floss unless a beat drops during my presentation. Then I'll probably have to break out and we'll show you what the floss is. But we can do that later tonight at the President's Gala. All right, the big bad M word, everybody, millennials. Millennials is defined as the generation born 1984 or after. Raise your hand. Who's a millennial in here? If you're born after 1984. All right, everybody, keep your hands up. Everybody look. These are the individuals during my presentation that'll have their phones out. It'll be on their phones. Just joking. So there's some words that are usually associated with millennials. I'm going to open it up to the crowd a little bit. What are some words that you think of when you think of millennials? Hey, don't give away my presentation. That's the next slide. All right. What are some other words? Yeah. Ruined everything. Come on, learn. This is a proactive presentation here. Some entitled. Okay. Some say lazy. Shortcuts. Some say rebellious. I like to use the word rebellious because I feel like sometimes I'm rebellious. Personally, for me, I'm a procrastinator. Like, I'm a big-time procrastinator. Like, when this presentation was finished? This morning at 6 a.m. Just because I like to, that's how I do things, and that's how I roll, and so far I haven't got burned yet. But we're gonna stick with the word entitled to start the presentation. So a lot of industry professionals have asked millennials, what do you want? What do you want in life? What do you want at work? And they say purpose. They say, we want a game plan. We want to show up and we want people to respect us, stuff like that. And then we also want free food and beanbag chairs. So we give them all of that, and still within a month they're leaving our companies. They're not giving the performance that we want them to do. So what are the real issues? So as a safety and risk professional, the one thing that I did was I did a root cause analysis, and that's what we're going to get into. But this phrase right here is what I wanted to show everybody, because millennials aren't going anywhere. Millennials right now are the majority of America's workforce, and that's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They are the largest generation in America's workforce right now. So the solutions have to start rolling out if we're going to continue what we're doing here. So we did a root cause analysis, and get your cameras ready because I'm about to show you the reasoning why some millennials are the way they are. So there's 3 major points. The adolescent stage, cell phones, we all saw that one coming, and impatience. So we're first going to start with the adolescent stage. This is the stage where they're growing up. This is where they're learning their values. They're being taught how to go throughout life. And this is somebody else's words and not mine, but you can say failed parenting strategies were used. What I mean by that, millennials have been told that they can have whatever they want just because they want it. Whatever they want. You can be whatever you want, whenever you want it, as soon as you want it. They've also been told everyone gets a trophy. So I'm thinking back, and like sometimes millennials got into honors courses not necessarily because they deserved it, but because the teacher or the parent knew the teacher. The millennial got an A on the exam not because he earned it, but because that teacher was afraid to confront the parent. And then everybody gets a trophy. You got a trophy if you were first, or you were a trophy whether you were last. Now, studies have been showing that that necessarily hasn't been working, because what that does, when you're last and you get that trophy, you're still kind of embarrassed that you're in last place. And when you get the trophy when you're in first place, it devalues winning. And honestly, especially after Ali's presentation with sales, devaluing winning is, I think, the worst thing you can do. Because let's say you close a big deal. Let's say you close a big job for Exxon or Chevron or Turner. You should be happy, and that should be celebrated that you were able to do that. Now, millennials growing up having this point of view that they can have whatever they want because they want it, and they get a trophy because everyone does, is hurting them when they enter the workforce. Because not everybody is the employee of the month. Not everybody gets a bonus. They have to earn it. So what this is doing is this is a culture shock to them. This is hurting their self-image. They're like, I haven't been told this my whole life. Why is this different now? So now they fall back to something. They fall back to something to support them, and that's where we get into cell phones. Now, this isn't just cell phones. This is all technology, social media. First off, the cell phone is probably the best invention, the best piece of technology right now for the business world. Most of us can work right off of our cell phones. How many people have their cell phones out on the table right now? Everybody does, not even the millennials. I thought it was going to be the millennials that were on their phones the whole time. Everybody's on their phones. So when you use your cell phone, when you get a text from that cute girl that you met at the bar last night, you feel good. That makes you feel good. When you look at how many likes you get on a post on Instagram, that makes you feel good. What that does is that engagement releases dopamine to make you feel good. That's why we all use our cell phones. We all love it. Now, there's some other things that release dopamine as well. Drinking releases dopamine. Smoking releases dopamine. Gambling releases dopamine. Now, what those three things have in common is there's an age restriction on those three things. There's not an age restriction on cell phones. Millennials have had cell phones in their hand. I remember when I was 9 years old, the group of my friends had the cool flip phones, and I was stuck with one of those pay-as-you-go phones, so I wasn't as cool. But we all had cell phones. We all grew up with them. So I compare that to, imagine if you're 8 years old, your parents go into the kitchen, unlock the liquor cabinet, and say, hey, try the vodka. It helps you get through the night. But just as I said, cell phones are great, but too much of something isn't okay. Drinking's fine. I saw Sean McDonald drinking last night, and it was a good time because he was drinking and I beat him at shuffleboard. Too much drinking isn't okay. Gambling is fun. Too much gambling isn't okay. So the issue with this is when a millennial gets stressed, instead of turning to an individual to help them with something, they don't turn to the individual, they turn to the cell phone. They turn to social media. And what this is doing is it's not allowing them to build deep and meaningful relationships. We can all think of it. When you're on a cell phone in an elevator, and let's say, I'm surprised, so I thought Ali was going to do the elevator pitch story in his presentation, but let's say you're in the elevator with a big prospect and you're on your phone the whole time. You missed that opportunity. So you're in a meeting, 5 minutes before a meeting starts with your team, and you're sitting there on your phone instead of asking your coworker, hey, how was your kid's soccer game last night? How's your mom doing? I heard she hasn't been doing okay. You're not building those deep and meaningful relationships. You're relying and coping from your cell phone. So those are the first two. And then the next one is impatience, which I'm sure a lot of people can agree with. I'm impatient. The reason why millennials are impatient is because we grew up in an instant Instagram world, but an instant gratification world. What that means, when we want to see a movie, we don't get in the paper, check the movie times, wait for Friday night. We get on Netflix and we watch that movie. If we want to watch a TV show, we don't have to stay tuned for next week. We can binge it. If we want to buy something, we don't go to a store, we get on Amazon, and it's here the next day. And the worst of it all, it's even happening with dating. Millennials don't even have to go to the bar anymore, do those awkward introductions like, hey, nice to meet you. We get on our phone, we get on Tinder, and all we have to do is swipe right. So now that's becoming instantly gratified. And now we're losing that social aspect as well. So in the business world, the example I always use is climbing the mountain. We all want to be at that peak of the mountain. I do. I'm sure everyone can agree we want to be at that top peak of the mountain. But what we don't realize is you have to climb the mountain to get there. That climb gives you the experience. That climb teaches you how to stay on top of that mountain and you don't fall off. Now, some are hiking up that mountain, so it takes them a little longer. Some may be taking a helicopter. It doesn't matter when you get to the peak, but what you need to realize, there is a peak before you can get to that mountain because those are the skills that keep you at the top. So, that was our root cause analysis of why millennials are the way they are. Those three things: the adolescent stage, cell phones, and impatience. So, what is the solution? And ladies and gentlemen, this isn't my Ali sales pitch, but I have the solution for you. So, the solution for, sorry, not that slide. I took that from, I don't know how that got in there. I must have got in here from Sean McDonald's presentation. The first point for the solution with millennials is leadership. That's it. Presentation's over. That's what it is, leadership. Just joking. We're going to break into that a little bit. The definition of being a leader isn't necessarily the position you hold. It isn't the experience you have. It isn't the degrees you have, how long you've been there. You're able to close down the bar every night. That doesn't make you the leader. A leader has one characteristic, and that is it: followers. If you don't have followers, you're not a leader, because who are you leading? So being able to motivate people to follow you, whether you are the base laborer, whether you're the foreman, whether you're the supervisor, anybody can be a leader. And that's what's key with motivating millennials. Get them to follow you. Motivate them. How you do that? So getting back to Ali's presentation a little bit, if you haven't noticed, we kind of planned this with how when we presented, he kind of transitioned into mine, and I keep going back to his. Instead of worrying about, let's say, the numbers, worry about the team, worry about the people. To be a great leader, you have to have empathy. So I did a training on Friday in New Jersey with the safety scaffolds guys with their 5 foremen on becoming better safety supervisors. They don't necessarily have an individual designated to safety, but they wanted to take that accountability. So we did that training with them. And they mentioned, our guys are doing the same exact thing every day. They get it. Building scaffolding, tearing down scaffolding. They understand it. But what I mentioned to them is you still have to be empathetic with those workers. Because every time an accident or an incident happens, you see a recording on the news, and they say, they did this every day. This is what they do every day. We don't understand what happened. And then 2 days later, they found out that a relative died, or they got out of a relationship, or something like that. Something was going on that was taking their mind off of their job roles. So being empathetic as a leader, let's say if someone doesn't hit their quarterly sales goal, instead of asking them, you got to get your numbers up, man, what are you doing? Ask how you can help. Be like, what can we do to get these numbers better? Are you okay? Ask them personally instead of worrying about the numbers. The second, mentorship. So this has been a big focus for the Apex Council right now, because really, I think this is one of the biggest This is the big pot of secret sauce right now for this industry. Now, I want to tell a story because I have a mentor that I'm still in touch with every day. We get lunch every week. When I was 18, I did an internship at an insurance brokerage firm in Pittsburgh. We insured general contractors. And I was with this guy every day. He taught me what I knew. We would eat lunch together. We would shoot the breeze after work, everything. We built a relationship. He taught me what I knew. And guess what? That internship was free, and I loved getting there at 7 a.m. every day just because I got to talk with him. So he was about 64 at the time, so he's now retired. And my last day of my internship, I was devastated because I knew I wasn't going to get to work with him every day. So I went up to him and I said, Tom, thank you for being my mentor. And he said, Cameron, thank you for being mine. That stuck with me since he said that, and that's the point I want to make today. The mentorship program that we have isn't for the experience to just teach the younger, the millennial. The reasoning that is, the younger individual can probably teach you something. The reason why I created this presentation this morning was because I wanted to be able to add some things last minute. I had a conversation with Harold Giddish about an hour ago, and he mentioned he was in the car with his son. He got a call on his flip phone, and he needed to write some information down. So he hits his son and says, hey, get the paper out of the glove box. Here's a pen. Write this stuff down. His son grabbed the pen and threw it back at him. I mean, you don't want to do that with Harold, especially when he's driving. But his son started writing it in his phone. And Harold's like, what's he doing? Before the end of that conversation, he had those notes sent to his phone already. So the biggest thing Harold mentioned was that I think it is important to have that because somebody younger can teach you that, how to use an Excel spreadsheet better, how to use Quantify, something like that. So the mentorship's 50-50, and that's what we want to keep it at. Development. So a Gallup poll asked millennials what they want, and the free food and beanbag chairs, I just made that up for the presentation. 95% of millennials said one thing that they want: development. That doesn't mean every laborer is going to be a supervisor, every laborer is going to be a general foreman, something like that. That just means give them a game plan. And that's one thing that I think we've done very well, especially within the risk engineering department of Allied. No matter what position you are, we sit down and we say, let's lay out a roadmap of what you want to accomplish. Let's not look at that 20-year mark first, but let's start with that 5-year mark, that 2-year mark, to see how we can get those goals accomplished. And I will tell you, that will motivate your team because they're seeing, and it's like, my team, my boss, they care about what my goals are. They care about that, no matter what they are. It could be a win employee of the month, could be a promotion, something like that, whatever. But setting that game plan and setting that development plan for them really motivates. Now, I got to ask, does anybody know this guy? Has anybody heard of him? His name's Burl Cain, and he's from Angola. Does anybody know what the city of Angola in Louisiana is known for? It's known for 2 things. Okay, I heard prison rate. Good. The first thing they're known for is their state fair. And the second thing they're known for, they had the bloodiest prison in the United States. The most murders took place at this prison. So Burl Cain was hired as the warden, and he said, I'm going to turn this around within 2 years. So Burl Cain came in, and he got the general population of that prison in one room. And he asked them, these are murderers, these guys are in for life, these are the meanest of the meanest in the country. And he asked them, who wants to hurt somebody? Who wants to kill somebody in here? 10% raised their hand. So what he did is he took the 10% and he put them in solitary confinement. He removed that issue. But the other 90%, so this is the bloodiest prison, and 90% do not want to hurt anybody. So he said, we're going to create a game plan. And he sat that 90% down, and Burl went to the state in the city of Angola that had the Angola State Fair and said, we have some new workers for you. I want to employ my prisoners to work at the Angola State Fair. I want them to pass out tickets, sell cotton candy. You can imagine the city with the bloodiest prison in the country saying, are you nuts? He said, trust me, we'll have a plan in place. If something were to happen, it'll be taken care of, and it happens, we won't try this again. But let's try it. So they tried it. These guys that are in prison for life were passing out cotton candy, were cleaning up after the festival, passing out tickets, interacting. And I'll tell you what, that was the best thing that's what they had to look forward to. And within 2 years, the Angola State Penitentiary went from the bloodiest prison to the safest prison in the country. No, I'm not saying we're running prisons here, but the development plan that he was able to give convicts and felons, and it might not have necessarily been, when I first heard it, I didn't think it was a good idea, but it worked. So a development plan can be provided to everyone, even convicts. The final point in the solution for millennials is family. I hear everybody say, our company is like a family. Our team is like a family. The people I work with every day, we are like a family. You're wrong. They are not like a family. They are a family. So stop saying like a family and start saying they are a family, especially in this industry. If one industry is going to do it to make millennials work and increase the population of millennials that come to this conference and that work in our industry, it's going to be this one. Because I look around and I see the companies that are here. They're third, fourth generation. Casey Scaffold, Pat and Mary come, and so does their son Sean. Michael Palladino's with his daughter. So they are not like a family. And then you got the B-Access team. Everybody's a family there. You're not like a family. You are a family. And especially in the safety realm, you want to build a culture for your team. Talk about having a family. Those safety scaffold guys in New Jersey, they've known each other for 25 years. They went to preschool together. There's not a lot in Branchville, New Jersey. But I can tell you, probably all the guys between 20 and 30 work for the scaffold company. So they get it. They're a family. Now, the example that I want to use, I go back to this all the time, is the Marine Corps. Because the Marine Corps really teaches the values. The first thing you do before you go to Parris Island is they tell you, take I, me, and my out of your vocabulary and replace it with our, we. You know what? I forgot the other one, but we'll just say we and ours. So a story behind this. A platoon of Marines were in Afghanistan in 2007. I hope you like my stories, by the way. I planned these out beforehand, and I think they relate to this very well. So a platoon of Marines in 2007 were in Afghanistan, and they're going through a ravine. And this ravine was surrounded by rocks, surrounded by hills, mountains. So they get in, and they start taking fire. They're surrounded. They've become ambushed. They barely have any cover. The only thing that's holding them back from being completely wiped out is it's a cloudy and overcast day. So 2 ospreys are flying up above, and they were advised, do not assist. You can't see where that ravine enters, where the mountains are. Pull up, stay at this height. Well, the one pilot disobeyed that order. So the one pilot saw the one entrance of the ravine. He came down slow, and he got under that cloud, and he started firing. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. And then he came up, and then he circled around, and he did it again. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Well, eventually he's out of ammo, and the threat hasn't been taken out yet. So he comes back up, and he gets on the phone with the other pilot. Says, hey man, we need to assist our brothers. He said, honestly, I'm scared. I don't know where the entrance is. I can't do it. And he says, Put your wing next to mine, and I will lead you in. So we let him in under that cloud. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Those 2 pilots saved 80% of those guys that would have been wiped out. Now, this pilot got all the awards and medals, and he was interviewed, and they asked him, "What made you do that? You disobeyed orders. You saved your brothers. Why did you do that?" And he responded, "Because they do the same for me." And that's really that mindset and that culture to have, to motivate your team and to keep them going. And this is the industry that's going to do that, I think, because we all are family, especially coming to these events. So my first scaffold convention was 2 years ago. I was nervous, didn't know anybody, and here comes Sean McDonald, never met him before, came up, talked to me. Talk about a cool guy, right? He's a really cool guy. And from now on, when I come to these events, I feel like I know everybody. I want to give presentations at these events every time because I love talking to you guys. But this organization is a family, and we're going to continue to spread that out to the industry and millennials to attract them. So that is all I have. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, come see us at our booth, and we'd be happy to talk about this. Thank you.